Hello and welcome to the week 4 review. Getting ahead of myself. Week 4 review of the JMD and JTT League. Welcome back, everybody. What a week it was. Injuries galore, points scored galore. In Dynasty alone, I think we had, through the first 3 weeks, we had no 200-point weeks. And this week we had 3 200-point weeks across the 5 divisions and several teams who got into the 190s as well. So we'll go through all of that as usual. Hope everyone's enjoying the season. We recorded the latest episode, our week 5 preview of our podcast last night. So that's now live as well. If you want to, if you've got time to check that out. We touched on that. Some good games, some not so great games. Anyone who stayed up for the entirety of Jets Dolphins and Bengals Broncos the other night, well done to you. That is properly proper commitment to the game if you manage that. Right, let's jump in. How's everybody doing? Let's look at the Brady division. Right, so first off, Wild Guns. We mentioned Wild Guns last week. Rookie, first time in the league, another win, 188, plays 179. Above that, HJMD, 152 points, not enough. First defeat for H, 162 for Yeovil 49ers. So let's start there with Yeovil Town 49ers. His first win of the season, first win of the new calendar year the new season for Yeovil Town 49ers. If I'm a little bit slow this morning, I apologise because I'm recording this at like 6:30 in the morning, which is very early for me, but I'm trying to fit everything in today and I didn't want to leave it any longer. Caleb Williams at quarterback, a little bit disappointing, I thought, after the performance against the Cowboys. I think whenever you see a QB play against the Cowboys, you've got to take some of it with a pinch of salt because he seemed to put up points that they wouldn't necessarily put up against another team. Solid, but nothing, not great with 12 points there, but it was enough to outscore Lamar Jackson, which he would have taken going into the week. Juba Hubbard with 9, Bucky Irving and Justin Jefferson, big weeks, as did Drake London. I needed that in a couple of leagues, 8 of 10 for 110 and a touchdown. Obviously helped with Darnell Mooney going out. McMillan, 10 points as well. Kincaid, so some solid scoring right the way through here. Kincaid with 9, Scatterby 13, and a better score from Drake May at quarterback, who's had, I believe he's in terms of getting over 20 points, that's 3 weeks on the trot for Drake May. So looking like a consistent quarterback. So yeah, a good win for Yeovil Town 49ers, 109 by 10 points to get them to 1-3. Feels like a crucial week to get that first win on the board. I thought that in a few of my leagues and a couple of leagues. I am one redraft and one dynasty where I'm 0-4, and it feels a little bit lost. Speaking of which, Team Evdokios 0-4, 179 points scored, really unlucky. Third highest scorer in the division this week, beaten by Wild Guns, as we've already talked about. One of the biggest scores of the week, though, believe it or not the biggest score of the week, 219.96, never dull in Hull. 2-2 ahead of Renee Speed, who scored 107, which is actually one of the lowest scores of the week. In fact, it might be the lowest score across all 5 divisions. So an absolute smashing, more than doubled his points. Let's quickly double up on this. Look at the not a great start at quarterback with only 12 points from Daniel Jones, but James Cook and Marion Hampton combining for 50 at running back. Then wide receiver Pickens, Adams, and Smith and Jigba, another 60-odd points there over those 3 wide receivers. Bowers continues to be underwhelming at tight end, but then look at that Green Bay duo, Jordan Love with 26 and Josh Jacobs with 31. You add to that 28 points from your kicker and D, and that's how you end up with 219 points and a second win of the season for JMD after starting 0-2, gets to 2-2. 5-yard rush Murph, unlucky, 150 points, solid score, just beaten out by owner of Brady, 153. So he drops to 2-2, and owner of Brady moves to 3-1. which moves the lead. Looking at this, Wild Guns obviously top 4-0, 718 points scored, massive score. 20 odd points ahead of JMD, who's also at 3-1. The two teams are at 3-1, two teams at 2-2. Dokios is the only one who's got a little bit of a panic on at 0-4. Moving on to the Elway division, we had another 200-point week in the Elway division. Adds T66 heads to the table, 222.8 points, one of the highest scores ever scored in the Dynasty series. Absolutely smashed team DS Liddy 92, who will have been proud, will have been pleased with 178 points, would have won most weeks, but not this week. Bonix at quarterback, so he probably enjoyed Monday Night Football. Scatterboo and Hampton, a couple of rookies coming through at running back, really felt like a rookie breakout week in terms of running backs this week. Jefferson and Puka Nacua, who is easily the wide receiver one through 4 weeks, and Garrett Wilson as well, putting up solid score in the end with a good fourth quarter on Monday night. Jalen Waddle is possibly one for the future. I know there's some debate on that, but possibly one for the future now that Tyreek Hill's out. This is his time to shine. Kyle Pitts, 5 of 5 for 70 and a TD, gives him 18 points, which is a great score at tight end. And then further down, Dak Prescott with another 30-point week, another big week, 30 points this week. Absolutely huge from Dak Prescott, who's done, that's 2 massive weeks in the last 3. And then another a solid 20 points from his kicker in D, Booker and Buff. So the Booker and the Buffalo D. So great scoring from Ads. Congrats to him. That's a massive score and will really help him this season. Team Dr. Dre moves to 3-1 with 188 points scored ahead of Pestle at 2-2. We've got another 2 teams at 2-2. The JTT Commish with a 17-point win, 172-155 over 89 Monday. And then further down, the only team in the entire division to still only be on one win, Suarez Power, lost by 7 points to Chen Burns in the battle of those 1-1 teams. So this division could not be in a better position, really. Couldn't be any more even, I don't think. Dr. Dre at 3-1, Suarez Power at 1-3, and bookending the other 6 teams who were all 2-2, and everything to play for going into the rest of the season. So big week this week, obviously, with bye weeks starting. I've already mentioned the injuries starting to pile up. It's an absolutely huge week for fantasy. This is where it really starts getting difficult. In the Manning division, win for my JMD Penguins, which I needed, 167 points, gets me to 2-2. PM Big Man's paid, yes, also 2-2. But the biggest scorer in the division, Gridiron, not quite 200 points, but Gridiron in the UK moves to 3-1 with 196 points scored. Patrick Mahomes at quarterback, good shout, and looked like the Patrick Mahomes of old. Whether that keeps up or not, we'll see. Big game against the Jags this week. Chuba Hubbard a little bit disappointing, but Marion Hampton we've already mentioned a few times. Really came through this week. 228 yards on the ground and a touchdown. 5 receptions through the air for 37 yards in that defeat to the Giants. Wide receiver Drake London and Pickens are going to come up in a lot of these big wins. Roma Doomsday only 16 points. Despite the touchdown, 4 receptions on 69 yards. A little bit disappointing for him, but still a good week. Jake Ferguson put up 17 points, including a touchdown in that 40-40 smasher on Sunday night. Tony Pollard, we talked about him on the pod actually this week. A little bit disappointing so far, but that he goes with the Titans defense, with the Titans offense a little bit. The Titans offense in general has been a little bit disappointing. Only 10 points. Caleb Williams only 12. Schrader in the Atlanta defense with 16. So the damage definitely done a little bit higher up there, but a massive week for Team Gridiron. So congratulations to him. It was actually beaten by so apologies to the last waltz, Ash Perry. I missed this. I've got this the wrong way around. Actually beaten by the last waltz, and Ash Perry scored 197 points. Kyler Murray on 18, James Cook and Derrick Henry. The 3rd week on the trot that Derrick Henry's been disappointing. Maybe now with Lamar out, they're going to hand him the ball and he's going to have to do a little bit more. But when you've got Justin Jefferson and Puka Nacua at quarterback, wide receiver. Oh my God, I'm so slow this morning. Wide receiver. I should have woken up before I did this. You are going to score. You are going to score well. So almost 60 points from the two of them. Nico Collins continues to be a bit disappointing. Again, a bit like Tony Pollard with the Titans. Nico's going with the Texans offense, and the Texans offense isn't going great. Tucker Kraft with a solid 10-point score at tight end. Jacobs was the one you wanted from the Packers, though, with 31 points. Drake May, again, we've already mentioned. And despite having the Baltimore defense at -3, McLaughlin at 16 gave him a good score at kicker. That -3 in the defense has stopped him hitting 200 points. So another defense would have got him over the 200-point mark. But I'm sure he doesn't mind with 197 points. The only other game I haven't mentioned is division. Matty Leo with a 65-point win over Mungry Pablo, which I think was the lowest score across all the dynasties. So the Super Bowl holder, Mungry Pablo's putting up a bit of a dud this week with only 105 points. Similar situation to the Elway division in this one. We've got Gridiron at 3-1, 630 points scored. We've got Big Bods at 1 and 3, a little bit lower down, and in between, there's just 6 of us sat here on 2 and 2 with everything to play for. In the Merino division, it's Ian's division to lose at the moment. So JMD Ian, also known as the Manchester Inferno, has got 179. Not a massive week compared to some of the others we've seen from the other divisions, but enough to beat Surviving Taysom Hill and move to 4-0. So one of the only teams left in the Dynasty Series who is unbeaten. So congratulations to Ian on that. If you listen to the pod or you chat to Ian at all, you'll know that this is one of the few leagues. So he's one of the few leagues, if not the only league, he's 4-0. He's having a bit of a shocker across some of them, but plenty of time to go. We're not going to look at Ian's though. We're going to look at this matchup here. Team Rookie Raven, 182.28, beaten by Dynasty Cowboys, who desperately needed the win. Super Bowl champion Dynasty Cowboys got their first win on the board, 183.98, less than 2 points. In fact, just over a 1.5 difference. Let's see where it was won and lost for Dynasty Cowboys and Rookie Raven. Good start. Jordan Love against Justin Herbert, so it's a good start for Rookie Raven there. Derrick Henry and Josh Jacobs, one's obviously at one end of the scale and one's at the other. Barkley and McCaffrey outscoring them two slightly. Ricky Pearsall will have been disappointed. He started well and had a good week last week. Obviously dealing with injuries. Ricky Pearsall and AJ Brown is where he's really lost it here. That's 10 points at wide receiver against Nico Collins and Quentin Johnson, who continues to be a revelation. Devontae Adams with another solid week. Not much Garrett Wilson could do on that Monday night, although that would have been painful watching, just needing a couple more points. Tucker Kraft outscores Brock Bowers by a point. Amon-Ra St. Brown continues to score touchdowns, another 2 this week, to outscore Cortland Sutton on that Monday Night Football. And Matt Stafford put up a good week. Stafford and Dak Prescott put up good weeks. So it was really, really close all the way through there. Dynasty Cowboys wins it. Rookie Raven. It's that wide receiver position. It's Pearsall and AJ Brown, which AJ Brown is in a lot of teams. Franklin on the bench scored higher than both of them. Would have made a difference. Would you start Franklin over AJ Brown? Takes a bold. That would be a bold move. But that would have won it for Rookie Raven. As it is, Dynasty Cowboys get their first win of the season. Team The Boy, who were also in the Charity Shield, put up 183 points, big week to beat Team Drift Edge, 100 by just over 40 odd points, just over 43 points. And one of the lower scoring matchups of the week, Brown Barracks, High Diddly Ho Neighborino, lost by 4 points to MKC Papa, also gets his first win of the season. So that makes the table look like this. Manchester Infernos, as we've already mentioned, at 4-0. We've got one team at 3-1, surviving Taysom Hill. And then further down, we've got 3 teams at 2-2 and 3 at 1-3. So still pretty close further down, but it's Ian's division to lose in the early stages. So Congrats to Ian. And finally, in the Montana League, we had another massive week here in week 4, 207.34 by Razamundo's JJ Be Good. Not the first time that he scored. I think we've been through his team recently. So not the first time he scored massively. Big win for him in the league and a big win in the Charity Shield as well. He's in the final of the Charity Shield. Just jumping ahead to the end of that. So we won't focus on his score though. I think we've been through something, been through there. What we're going to look at here is London Tube Raiders, 161, just under 2-point victory over Craig 84, who falls to 1-3. London Tube Raiders go to 3-1. Where was this one won? Hertz put up a good score, but was outscored by Drake May. Hampton outscored Javonte Williams. Scatterbo was pretty close all the way through this. Scatterbo was okay, bit disappointing from what I think people were expecting. 13 points against H-Chance 17. Pickens is where he may have won it here, 33 against Justin Jefferson's 22. Not many people would have had George Pickens to outscore Justin Jefferson in any given week. But George Pickens and Drake London, a great duo there, despite having Lad McConkey holding him back with just the one reception on 11 yards. Juwan Johnson tailing off after a good start to the season. But Travis Kelce on the other side isn't pulling up any trees either. And then further down, Dicker outscored McPherson, but there's not much in it. Daniel Jones didn't have much in it. It's been one at the top there with the Pickens, London, and Hampton are the three big scorers there that gets him the win for London Tube Raiders, who, like I said, moved to 3-1. We mentioned JJ Be Good moves to 3-1. Team Jordan Dixon falling to 2-2. The Blair Walsh Project moved to 2-2 with a 18-point win over Fiona. Team Fiona 8-21 falls to 1-3. And then two teams at 2-2. Corgis Unite, 118 points, one of the more disappointing scores of the week, beaten by Ryan Judge, 181. Good score for Ryan Judge, moves to 2-2. So we've got two teams at 3-1, four teams at 2-2, and the two teams there at 1-3. So JJ Be Good and the London Tube Raiders. We'll just point out there, JJ Be Good, 701 points, big scoring from Razamundo's team. So that brings us to the end of the Dynasty Roundup. What I will say just quickly is, I will put this graphic on the matches, but the three winners in the Charity Shield who moved through to Week 5's final. Wild Guns in the Brady division won by 5 points, 188 to 183. So the boy was unlucky there. The Charity Shield holder, JMD Pod, was beaten, only 152 points this week. Ryan Judge 2 from the Montana division is into the final. And as I've just mentioned, JJ Be Good with 207 beats Team Chen Burns 167. So Wild Guns, JJ Be Good, and Ryan Judge are the three teams who make it through to the final with a chance to win those tickets next week. I'll be in touch with all three just to make sure they actually want the tickets, and we'll be using them before the final next week. But yeah, congratulations to the three of them making it to the final. Should we do redraft? Right, week 4 in the division. In the A division, I was absolutely smashed by Evdokios, 206 points. Huge week, 206.92. Herbert at quarterback, Hampton and Genty as the 1-2 punch. For you wanted a rookie pairing, that's the rookie pairing to have this week. Hampton and Genty putting up 60 points between them. Romadunze, Mika Igbuka at wide receiver, 36 between the two of them. Bowers and then Pickens. Gainwell, what a start that is with Jalen Warren being out. Gainwell, 31 points as well. And then Will Lutz and the Texans defense combining for 18. So an absolutely huge week for Evdokios. I never stood a chance. Which, if you're never going to stand a chance, scoring 111 is the time to do it. So congratulations to them. 1-3 needed that win. Evdokios moves to 1-3. I dropped to 2-2. Elsewhere, the final boss, look at that for a score. 0.1. 0.1. So ads who we've already talked about in Dynasty, broken, beaten, and scarred, 153.98, beaten by the final boss, 154.08. So broken, beaten, and scarred drops to 3-1, final boss 2-2. Providence Steamroller moves to 3-1 with a 15-point win over DS Liddy, who's 1-3. Ram Raider 1980 with a 33-point win over Catch Me If You Can, who's 1-3. Ram Raider goes to 3-1, and at the bottom, one of the two lowest scores. Oh, sorry, mine aside, the two lowest scores in the division. Long Pink Snapper ends up on the right end of that to move to 1-3. Hot off the griddy, disappointing 110 for Brown Bear Rick after a 3-0 start. So no unbeaten teams left in this division. We've got 4 teams at 3-1, and the 2 of us at 2-2, and then another 4 at 1-3. Absolutely wide open through 4 weeks ahead of the big bye week starting next week. So in Division B, I top scored this week against H, which is nice. So I've not really rubbed it in. This is the division where he took over a team late though, so he's not going to take this defeat in the same way he would do others. Let's have a quick look at my team. Judkins and Hampton, not quite the Genty and Hampton duo at running back, but rookie running back. Collins and Lad McConkey. That, I mean, before the season, you've got to look at that and think that's a good duo. Not happening at wide receiver. I do have Pickens though. Pickens and Swift have done the business for me there. Might have to look at a different tight end with Juwan Johnson just scoring 5 points, and then Brandon Aubrey and H's Houston Texans defense working against him to score 14 points. So enjoyed that. That's 3-1 for my Penguins of Dallas, 2-2 for H. Spalding's Staley Clock Crew gets his first win, 1-3, 153 points, plays 112. Ian smashing it in some of the other in Dynasty, only 2-2 here in Division B. Connor French gets his 3-1, his third win in the season, and Garmo falls to 1-3. And the JTT Cup Commish moves to 3-1 too, with Druba at 1-3, and the Scottish Paper Trip falls to 1-3 with Kittle Mix PPR at 3-1, which leaves us with 4 teams at 3-1, 2 teams at 2-2, and 4 teams at 1-3. With Kittle Mix PPR leading the way ahead of the JTT Cup Commish. On points scored. In C, the biggest score of the week in C was the Gumby Beard, moves to 3-1 with a win over the Baby Broncos, who were 2-2. 176 points scored for the Gumby Beard. Herbert started at quarterback with 16 points, bit disappointing considering how well he started the season. Bijan Robinson, who scored 28 points despite a big week, his name has not come up. I think that's the first time we've mentioned him in all of the big scoring teams this week. So Bijan Robinson with 28, who just continues to put in big weeks. And Josh Jacobs, that's a 30-point week for Josh Jacobs. Basically 60 points between the 2 running backs. That is going to win you most weeks, especially when you back it up with Puka Nacua, amongst others at wide receiver. Jackson Smith and Jigba started the week on Thursday Night Football, which seems like a long time ago now. Disappointing 13-point week, but Hunter Henry is turning into a very solid tight end. Buka with 20 points, and then Mayazu has been a little bit disappointing with just 7 points. Brandon Aubrey in the Washington defense add another 12 for him, but like I say, the damage was done there at running back. So a big week for Gumby Beard to move to 3-1. Also at 3-1, MKC Papa, who lost his first time for the first time this year, Jack Donnelly in Division C, beating. Look at that, just over less than a point and a half for a win there. Could MKC Papa have done something different? Kamara 11 points, running back. Laporta 6. Shahid 9 at flex, and on his bench he's got RJ Harvey with 19 points. Excuse me. Drake May at quarterback wouldn't have made any difference. Yeah, RJ Harvey over Alvin Kamara would have won it, or over Raheed Shaheed. Probably not starting RJ Harvey over Kamara, but you may have started him over Raheed Shaheed. Maybe 2 New Orleans Saints was too many. Yeah, 2 Saints is too many. So unlucky there for MKC Papa. Also falling to 1 and also moving to 2 and 2. Sorry, Ginger Mamba, 122 points. Not the biggest scoring week. In fact, it was the second lowest score of the week. But when you're playing the lowest score of the week, it doesn't matter. Canal Wolves fall to 1 and 3. 2 other teams at 1 and 3. Grosy 92 gets the win over Jamie G10. Who another really close game, just 2 points in it. Dingling 75 loses to Stop the Votes team. 13-point win for them, moved to 3 and 1. So again, another division with plenty to play for. 3 teams at 3 and 1 at the top, the Gumby Beard leading the way, 621 points. We've then got 4 teams at 2 and 2 and 3 teams at 1 and 3. So it's all still very close, isn't it? Which you'd expect 4 weeks in. Makes sense. But very few teams at 4 and 0 when you look at it. Again, another division with no teams at 4 and 0. The biggest score of the week goes to the Scottish Patriot, 176.5 to move to 2 and 2 and beat Jimmy Nugent 131. Mahomes at quarterback. Well, this is impressive. Mahomes at quarterback and Omarion Hampton at running back to put the highest score of the week up with Jalen Warren in your team when he ended up being out. I think that caught a few people off guard. Luckily I'd taken him out of a couple of teams I had him in, and completely missed that news until halfway through the first quarter. So got lucky there. But yeah, Mahomes and Hampton putting up big scores. Warren obviously letting him down by not playing. Nico Collins, Tyreek Hill now being out. So that's a couple of problems he's got this week with Warren on bye and Hill now being out. Jake Ferguson with a good score at tight end. Ashton Genty putting up the points. Justin Genty and DK Metcalf putting up the points in the flex positions. Schrader at kicker just doesn't miss that guy. Schrader at kicker and the Minnesota Vikings defense rounds out 176 points. Possibly, let's have a look just quickly who was on his bench in terms of running backs. Could have switched one of the flex players to running back and played Golden, got himself another 11 points. So, but won't be disappointed with 176. Further down, Team Big Bods had another one of those scores where they had the second lowest score in the division and have managed to win. So Big Bods moved to 2 and 2 with the win over Bear Down LCFC, who only managed 99.38, one of the lowest scores of the week. Just quickly looking at that, Lamar will obviously have been a disappointment. Jameer Gibbs not putting up the numbers he usually does. J.K. Dobbins 100 yards, but only 11 points because he's got 1 reception and no touchdowns. Devontae Adams did okay. Lad McConkey's been disappointing. Travis Kelce, we've already mentioned. Devonta Smith, Lad McConkey and Devonta Smith. That's going to be a tough week for you. Deebo Samuel did all right, and then the Packers defense has lost in 3 points, which won't have helped at all. Jack Donnelly loses his unbeaten record by a 4-point defeat to Long Pink Snapper, who moves to 2 and 2. Dokios, 10-point defeat to SGAF 84, who gets his first win on the board. And then at the bottom there's a 5-point win for Field of Dreams, who moves to 3 and 1, which puts Jack Donnelly top ahead of Field of Dreams, both teams on 3 and 1. And then we've got 6 teams on 2 and 2 before Bronco Bay and SGAF 84 round out the bottom 2. In Division E, top scoring this week was my Thunder Penguins, which is not the first time we've said that. If you lean into Dak Prescott and the Cowboys, this is what happens because when they put up 40 points. We won't focus on my team though, because we've already been through one of my teams. That's 180 to 118, moves me to 3-1. Beating that was the Renegade Masters, who were 3-0 at the time. So big win in this division. Unfortunately, stops them getting to 4-0. Another division where we don't have a 4-0 team. What we will look at. Let's look at this one down here. So Steph the goalie, but Goose goes into this at 1-2, falls to 1-3. Team Galzinho also 1-2, moves to 2-2 with a 5-point win. 158 plays 153. Josh Allen on the left-hand side starts well. Herbert, Kyron, and Hampton. It's a solid score without doing anything particularly great on that right-hand side for Galzinho. Quinton Johnson continues to be a revelation. Puka Nacua outscored him. DJ Moore and Hockenson and Higgins are where it's been lost here. 3 wide receivers combining for barely 20 points. On the other side, Amon-Ra St. Brown with 26. Sorry, it said 3 wide receivers, 3 pass catchers, not wide receivers. Got tight end. Tucker Craft outscores Hockenson, not much in it. Trey Tucker doesn't outscore T. Higgins, but Amon-Ra has done the damage there. Jacoby Myers with only 7 was disappointing. So it's enough for Galzinho, who also had. Oh, why have I clicked off? Why has that clicked off? Who also had at kicker and D 20 points there, which was not enough to outscore. So let's see. Did Steph have a wide receiver on the bench she could have played? Not really. Cooper Kupp, 6 points, would have got. No. That's going to make you feel a little bit better if you lose, and you probably couldn't have done much to win. It's probably players on the waiver wire, but that's a different matter. So Galzinho moves to 2-2. Elsewhere, Drift Edge moves to 2-2 with a 7-point win over Random Task, who's now 3-1. James 87 falls to 1-3, beaten by Hurts to Do This To You. Jake LP's team moves to 2-2, and at the bottom, Ramalama Ding Dong moves to 2-2. And with that big win over Finding Nico, who's 1-3. So we have 3 teams at 3-1, with the Renegade Masters leading the way with 604 points scored. 4 teams at 2-2, and then Finding Nico, Buck Goose, and James 87 fighting it out at the bottom, all 1-3, looking for their second win as we go into week 5. And last but not least, Division F. I did think I said that we were going to do this. We're going to mix this order up. So apologies to everyone in Division F that you keep me in last. I will mix the order up. Wins for several teams, including Team 66 Kicks, who gets his 3rd win of the season with 183. Justin Fields at quarterback, great shout, good start. What a touchdown that was. Sums the Jets up for me that they've got some talent, but they're not very well run. I mean, that was all Justin Fields, but what a touchdown run that was. Aston Genty and Jack Charbonnet was his running backs of choice. Genty's come through with his breakout game this week, which has helped. Puka Nacua and Alec Ayamana at wide receiver. Ayamana only 2 receptions on 44 yards. Another one where Woods throwing across his body. He likes those to Alec Ayamana. Fannon's been disappointing at tight end, only after a big start. 2 receptions for 24 yards in that one. Jackson Smith-Njigba, we were talked about, was a disappointing start to the week. But George Pickens with another 33 points there. So is that 3 scorers in the 30s? Yeah, Genty, Puka Nacua, and George Pickens is going to be hard to beat if you're putting up those sort of points. Even with only a solid 15 from Cam Little and the Buff defense. Big win there, 183 plays 140. So MetLife Crisis fall to 1-3. So, and Team 66 moves to 3-1. Drewbert beat my Wall Street Penguins by 20 points. So Drewbert's 3-1. My Penguins fall to 1-3. Further down, Steph the goalie, but let's book him bake, 116 points. win over Team Galzinho. So that's 3-1 against the same matchup we've just talked about in Division E. Might have been. It's a coincidence. 3-1 for Steph, 2-2 for Galzinho. Return of the Mac moves to 2-2 with a 16-point win over Long Pink Snapper, and Pestle moves to 3-1 with a 30-odd point win over Bear Down LCFC. So 4 teams at 3-1 in this division, led by Pestle on 575. We've got 2 teams in the middle on 2-2, Return of the Mac and Galzinho, and 4 teams on 1-3, including my Penguins down there in 8th, who all desperately need a win in week 5 to avoid falling away from the pack as we move into the middle of the season. So that is the summary of the leagues. Welcome back. Hello. That's the summary of the leagues. I've updated the cup as well. We're not going to go through the cup every week, but I've updated the challenge site. So if you go on there, you'll see where you are in terms of the cup. We are 4 weeks into that 10-week group stage. The only other thing that we need to mention is the Survivor Pod. Did we lose 5 this week? I'm trying to remember where we're at. We lost 3, I think, this week. Yeah. So this week we lost Jake Elrow, who went for the Chargers to beat the Giants. So unlucky there. We lost Ash Perry 83, who went for the Packers to beat the Cowboys, and we lost the Commission's Bro, who forgot to do it. I reminded him Monday morning, and then he went for the Jets to beat the Dolphins. So it made no difference. So back-to-back weeks. So they both suffered this. All 3 of those suffered their second loss to move to be knocked out. So we've got from the 41-man start, we go into week 5 with 36 remaining. Of those 36, 6 have lost a life. So the Gumby Beard and James 87. Sorry, 6 have lost a life this week. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 have lost a life in total. So the Gumby Beard lost a life this week, going for the Chargers. James 87 also went for the Chargers. The JTT Cup Commish lost his life this week, went for the 49ers. Walden Farms went for the Packers. And then Groves 92 and Evdokios both went for the Chargers. So starting to whittle down a little bit in the JMD Survivor Pod. Thanks for watching. If you've made it all this way through, thanks for watching. Apologies that wasn't as smooth as possibly other weeks have been. As I say, I'm recording this at 6 o'clock in the morning because I've got loads to do today and I wanted to make sure we got it done. I didn't want to miss a week. So yeah, I'll be on better form next week. But congratulations to everyone who's doing well. We've not that many teams at 4-0 across all the divisions, which is good to see. You want it to be competitive, whether it's the 8-team dynasty or the 10-team redraft. The Cup's going really well. Again, congratulations to the 3 teams in the Charity Shield final next week. I will post that in the group shortly. And yeah, look out for the next episode next week.